Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Yowie, Wildman. All names familiar the world over for the large, hairy, human-like creature sighted on almost every continent. To many, he is a frightened, harmless remnant of a missing link, hiding away in the dark woods or deep subterranean cave systems of the world. To others, he is a scary beast, bringing back folk memories from a long distant past. Most tales of Bigfoot come from the USA and Canada, and of course the Yeti of Nepal. But what about Europe? Surely there can be no evidence of him there. Overpopulated, built-up cities, relatively small forests, and a landscape that has been explored and explored again over centuries. Well, we'd be completely wrong. Evidence of Bigfoot in Europe and beyond is, from an historical perspective, much bigger and better documented than anywhere else in the world. But even more interesting are the modern day sightings across the continent of Europe. Yes, people in Europe still see and hear the Wildman. I live in Sherwood Forest, a forest that at one time stretched across much of England, and was a dark, fearful place. It has given rise to folk memories of many scary monsters. Goblins, elves, the Green Man, and of course Robin Hood, all resided in the deep woods. Many mythologists state that those tales arose from lessons taught to children to keep them away from the very real wolves, bears, and other dangerous animals. Others say they are memories of our pagan past, of the gods and goddesses that were the spirits of the woods. But most folklorists will agree that all good myths arise in legend, and all legend derives from some kernel of truth. These truths can often be found in the language of the people and in the names of places. Close to Sherwood, there are many places called Woodhouse. Kirkby Woodhouse, Annesley Woodhouse and Mansfield Woodhouse are but three. course, the name can and does very often mean a place where a wooden house can be found. But there is another meaning. We have to remember that wooden houses were all that people had, and so naming a place after a wooden house didn't always differentiate it from others. Quite often places were named after a river crossing, a local unusual land shape or structure. But they were also named after local legends, people, beasts. Sherwood is named after the sheriff. It was the sheriff's wood. Woodhouse in many places was in fact named after a very old folk memory of the Wildman of the woods. The term is thought to have been altered in what is known as the early modern English period, around the 17th century. It is derived from Woodwose or Woodwose and gives rise to the place name and surname Wodehouse, such as the author P.G. Wodehouse, or even Jane Austen's character Emma Woodhouse. Wodehouse or Woodwose means simply wild man beast of the woods. Woodu is wood, and wose is simply being. It is therefore the wood being. The term is also Europe-wide and gives us a clue to the size and scale of this wild man memory. Germany gives us the term wildermann, French homme sauvage, and Italy uomo selvatico, or forest man. So what was this wild man or woodwose? Well, all accounts from way before the 13th century depict the beast as being very wild. They were almost always shown to be covered in hair. Across Europe, there are paintings and carvings depicting this wild man, and giving us another angle, we find that the wild man is more often than not associated with a beast of the woods that we, as modern humans, have split apart from the legend of the Woodwose. This other beastly human-like creature is the Green Man. Seen in every corner of Europe, the Green Man peers out from within the dark and foreboding woods. He is watching our every move. He seems to know more than we do about nature, about how to live in that terrifying place. He guards the gateway to the land of trees and foliage. He is human, and yet not human. He is entwined with branches and vines, and his features appear to be almost pre-human. What difference is there here to the modern-day US sightings of Bigfoot? He is spotted peering from the woods. He escapes our gaze easily and becomes one with nature. He lives in the forests without modern conveniences, without tents, campfires, guns. He knows how to live in there as any animal should. Often the sightings say that Bigfoot had some form of branch or club, and here again we find similarities with the European Woodwose, for he is very often depicted holding aloft a crafted tool, possibly a tool used to protect himself or hunt for food. In other parts of Europe, the term varied vastly, and taking a look at these will reveal a fascinating and massive documented case file, or X-Files of Bigfoot, unparalleled in the world. In Germany, the term Skrat or Skrazo was used for hairy woodland men, or beasts, a term also used for fawn, sylvestras or pilosi, other creatures that morphed and changed and were, over time, separated from the Wildman we know. Could it be that many of these deities of the woods and forests were based on very real sightings of a strange and yet intelligent beast, appearing like man and yet not man? In Lombardy, Italy, the term Salvan is derived from the Latin Silvanus, a god of the countryside for the Romans. Are we beginning to see a huge tale of hairy wild men across Europe? In Switzerland, the wild man was known as the Fang, another term meaning fauna. Lamia, Hosnmoya, Maya, Leshy, Orcus, Ogre are just a few other terms from Europe, all related to ancient pagan deities and hairy beasts of the woods. Time changes many things in language, and the mind of man is constantly recreating. Orcus became the orcs of modern fantasy novels and films, as too did the ogre. But their origin was in the legend of the Woodwose, the wild man of the woods. So too, medieval man recreated the hairy beast into his own contemporary fantasy stories. He emerged as Robin Hood, the Green Knight, Sir Gawain, and numerous others. Clever, intelligent, and something about them that was otherworldly, evoking lost worlds, lost times. Today, modern people very often speak about these things when they retell their experiences of Bigfoot. They have a sense, a knowing, a feeling that something about these creatures was not of this place. Some have even gone so far as to wonder whether they were in fact from another world entirely. Bigfoot, as an alien, is an interesting proposition, and one that has more recently taken the imagination of people around the globe. A clue to where this kind of thinking comes from is found in a tale from 1888. The story goes that a cattleman in Humboldt County, California, was led to a cave by a friendly Indian, whereupon he saw a huge humanoid creature. It was covered in long black shiny hair and was, amazingly, sitting cross-legged. The cattleman was told that these creatures were known as crazy bears and had fallen from a small moon that itself had fallen from the sky. The moon then went back into the sky. Many, of course, now see the small moon as a spaceship and the huge beast as the alien being from within. With the birth of modern technology and the amazing possibilities this brings, mankind has pondered whether these other beings from distant galaxies are in fact ahead of our own. Can they travel across the vastness of space? Have they been doing so for millennia? And if so, have they been here? Using these questions and more, we have imagined answers to ancient mysteries. The pyramids are now said to have been built by the aliens. Ancient standing stones are messages to the alien gods. And now, of course, that ancient beast, Bigfoot, is thought to have come from outer space. Over thousands of years, man has sighted the hairy beasts of the woods. Intelligent, man-like beings that elude us. Always there, and yet we are unable to communicate with them. Indeed, in some ancient texts, these beasts conversed with the gods themselves, the same gods that many now say were in fact aliens. They even had superpowers. Today, many of the myths surrounding magic and the wonders of the mind during lucid dreaming are said by some to be reality itself, and that those strange things we see when undergoing trance states are in fact beings from another place, another dimension. Quantum physics opened up this new world to the modern imagination, and suddenly the seemingly bizarre notions brought to light by science of such things as quantum entanglement actually sparked the modern concepts of aliens from totally different dimensions to our own. Now Bigfoot is said by some to cross the threshold of multi-dimensional travel, and this explains why sometimes we see him and sometimes we don't. Why there are no bodies discovered, why there is a sense of otherworldliness to him. For me, all of this is stretching the imagination too far. To believe that aliens built the pyramids is condescending to ancient Egyptians. To believe that Stonehenge was beyond our ancestors is an insult to the ingenuity of mankind. To say that Bigfoot is really an alien because we can't find him is to deny the complexity and diversity of life on planet Earth. It is a wonderfully beautiful place in many respects, and we have not yet seen it all by any stretch of the imagination. If Bigfoot exists, it will be found in two places only: on the very real three-dimensional world we call Earth, or within the dark recesses of the human mind. The task is to discover which. And to help us, we should respect our ancestral brothers and ask them what they believed. We now turn to the lore of the folk from ages past to see what lies within. The wild man of the woods may be an elusive character today. In Europe, we have often reduced our great woods and forests to sorrowful remnants, although some large-scale woods survive in places. Hence, the abode of the Woodwose is not only much smaller than in the distant past, it is also invaded daily by industry and tourists. And yet, history and folklore are being shown to reveal the Bigfoot, if we just know how to look. Folklore did not emerge from the ground, it welled up within the mind of man, and from his observation of life and the world around him. It travelled with him as he migrated around the globe. The European culture did not suddenly emerge overnight. For millennia, the tales told by man have been adopted by neighbouring cultures and fostered. Europe has been constantly invaded by armies of the East and vice versa. It has traded with continents beyond its boundaries for as long as there have been settlements.
Right now! Second rank close over! Present your pieces! How to give fire! Give fire! You must draw your swords! Move! Come on!
But more than products and services were traded, so too were legends, tales, beliefs, and language. Memory of the Woodwose was passed from generation to generation across the landscape and across time. Our very language is termed Indo-European, giving us a clue to one of those vast influences upon the mind of man, India. Indo-European languages number over 400 and can be traced back to 2500 BC around the Balkans, from where it spread outwards, west into Europe and east into India. Proto-Indo-European can be traced back even further to around 7000 BC and reveals an almost global family of man. Indeed, one of the first concepts of the hairy beast originated in Babylon with Nebuchadnezzar II. He is depicted as mad and apart from civilization, with hair covering his body, living like a beast. Similar images were popular across Europe. There would be little wonder then to find the elementary archetypes of the Robin Hood, Green Man, and Woodwose folklore within the tales of many nations. In India, there are tales known as the Ramayana. These are the stories of the adventures of Rama, the Hindu human incarnation of Krishna. Even his name, Rama Hodja, sounds like Robin Hood. He was the Lord of Midnight, dwelling in the depths of night and in the deep woods. He was unjustly exiled to the forests. To many historians, such a link would be ridiculed, but with the similarities and origins of archetypal folk tales, we actually have here a distinct possibility. As these Hindu tales seem perfectly bizarre to us today, with their tales of monkey gods and strange creatures, so too early forms of Robin Hood folklore seem peculiar, with hairy men and beasts. We have concepts of green men, goblins, and strange deities of the woods, all sounding very close to the Hindu myths. And of course, we must remember that India is full of sightings even to this day of the infamous Bigfoot. Robin Hood and others are linked closely in myth with Puck. Puck is in fact a European version of the Greek god Pan. He was lord of the animals and nature spirits and lived in Arcadia. In this respect, Robin Hood has also been linked with the global phenomenon of the Green Man, or Wildman of the woods. In the 12th century life of Merlin, we have precisely the same elementary truth as Merlin flees to the woods. He made use of the roots of plants and grasses, of fruit from trees, and of the blackberries in the thicket. He became a man of the woods. This is Merlin, the wise wizard of time before Christianity, becoming the wild man of the woods, merging with the spirits of the darkness and living as one with nature. Does this reveal something about Bigfoot or ourselves? Have we strayed so far from nature that we both fear it and worship it? Bigfoot, on the other hand, is one with nature. The Green Man, Robin Hood, Canunus, or the Horned God, and of course the Woodwose, are lords and masters over the animals of the forest. Robin Goodfellow is the same, said to be born of a human mother and a godlike father in the form of Oberon. He is green like the Green Man. And like modern tales of Bigfoot, these ancient men were shapeshifters. They are linked also to the much more ancient deities and green gods such as Tammuz, Adonis, and the Egyptian Osiris. These are gods of vegetation, appearing symbolically with green skin. The fact remains that Christianity was stomping all over pagan beliefs, rewriting tales that had existed for hundreds of years. But as the Christians were destroying cultural history, there were those who defended it. The Masons of the period in which Robin Hood, the Green Man and the Woodwose grew to popularity were hiding their symbols and pagans in the framework and masonry of churches across Europe. Green men sprang up in every sacred Christian place, strange characters seen hiding in foliage, peeping out like messengers from the past. There are, of course, other beasts that must in some form or other relate to Bigfoot. One in particular is a very European idea, and one often missed by Bigfoot researchers: the troll. Scandinavian in origin, the troll is believed to have lived in isolated mountains and caves in small family units, very similar to Bigfoot. Just like the Woodwose, they were associated with place names and landmarks. They were scary beasts, sometimes helpful, sometimes downright nasty. They are human and yet not human. Hairy, ugly, sometimes slow-witted, other times clever and cunning. In short, they resemble the modern-day concept of Bigfoot.
This is a troll, brought back by my good friend Philip Gardner from Norway. It's a big hairy man, prolific in Norway and Sweden. It's got a stick that looks like it's been fashioned, so obviously he's intelligent. This one doesn't look particularly scary, but the legends speak of big, huge, scary, powerful creatures. And if the legends have survived, they survived for a reason. That's because they scare the wits out of people. Now, big hairy men ripping people apart. Trolls, ogres, werewolves.
In Germany, there were the Moss people, a strange, human-like creature, again hairy, wild, and living in the woods. They seem to have been hunted to extinction. In Greek myth, there are the hamadryads, or those born to a tree. Like the Green Man or Bigfoot, they are one with nature, and today the hamadryad monkey keeps its name alive. In Scotland, the Amphir Liath Mór, or the Big Grey Man, is said to haunt the mountains. Tall, strong, scary, and covered in hair, this has to be a folk memory of the European Bigfoot. In Spain, the Basajon is again a strong, hairy, tall creature from the wild places, spotted by lone travellers. Similar tales are found in every single country of Europe, and in quite large numbers. We must not forget the werewolf. Often this beast is cast aside as too strange. But one thing you learn when researching mythology is to reduce the imagery to the logical. What we actually have here with the werewolf is a beast covered in hair and said to be half man. The term actually means man-wolf, which is basically a hairy man. It is found in all the same places and at the same periods, and is a shapeshifter, just as Bigfoot. So, Michelle Gent, you're an author of several books on werewolves.
Yes.
Do you think there's a link?
To big hairy men wandering around in the woods? Yes. I think there is. There's got to be something. It just makes perfect sense. You've got big hairy men that like to rip people apart, eat them, and who's to say whether they're werewolves, Bigfoot, Yeti, vampires perhaps? Where do all these legends come from? Is there one specific link, or less likely, different creatures? You've got 3 different creatures there, or perhaps 3 different perspectives of the same creature.
In times gone by, you could cross Europe hidden by trees. Today, forests are isolated islands in a sea of roadworks and buildings. Over the course of hundreds of years, civilization cut down the trees as cities grew and the natural habitat of thousands of species was destroyed. But nature has a strong willpower to survive, and very often finds a way. Europe, like most of the world, has huge cave systems. You can cross hundreds of miles without ever seeing daylight. New discoveries are being made every week of plants, mosses, fungi, fish, animals, and insects. There is more than enough down there for even a small group of humans to survive. Legends across the world speak of the Wildman disappearing beneath the surface of the earth and into the dark holes. Even today, many sightings speak of cave systems and tunnels within the woods. Could it be that as mankind chopped down the trees, the clever Wildman found his way into another world below our own? Does he still emerge to forage for food? A vast amount of ancient and historical accounts would seem to be pretty strong evidence for such an idea. Trolls, Woodwose, Bigfoot, all have been said to live under the earth. Is this the last place we need to search to discover the truth? Or will they find yet another hiding place? I say we leave them alone. A case in 1870 in Croatia tells a remarkable tale. During the cold winter, two brothers slept together in a warm stable. In the middle of one night, one brother awoke when he felt as if there was something between the two of them. When he touched it, it felt hairy and warm, and at first he thought it was their dog. Then, slightly brushing against the breast made him realise it was female. Suddenly frightened, he called his brother. The hairy female quickly made for the door, and the two brothers followed her out into the courtyard. She was quicker than they were, however, and jumped over the fence to the garden and out into the woods. The deep snow forced the brothers to give up their chase, but they saw the woman quite clearly in the moonlight. It was a Woodwose, one of the hairy beings, somewhat lower than humans, who lived in the woods. Later, when they told their father about the incident, he expressed little surprise. It was common for them to warm themselves beside humans during cold winters, he explained. The short-statured Woodwose wore no clothes, as they were covered with long, thick hair. They had short hair on their heads and fringed beards under their chin. Their naked faces showed a prominent low ridge, a large nose, full and wide mouth, and deep-set eyes. They had short legs and long arms, but their hands and feet were clearly hominid. Though generally timid, they sometimes ventured into human territory when either cold or hungry. In England in the 1940s, a beast described as a large hairy man like the werewolf from American Werewolf in London was spotted by a housewife. In Scotland in the 1950s and 60s, werewolves spotted were described as hairy men. In Mongolia, in 1963, a British anthropologist interviewed many who had spotted the almas, the Wildman. 1980, a worker at an experimental agricultural station operated by the Mongolian Academy of Sciences at Bulgan encountered the dead body of a Wildman. I approached and saw a hairy corpse of a robust human-like creature, dried and half buried by sand. The dead thing was not a bear or ape, and at the same time, it was not like a man, or Mongol, or Kazakh, or Chinese, or Russian. In Holland in 1984, at 2 a.m, a man came face to face with Bigfoot in a car park near a forest. In Wales, in 1992, a strange hairy bear-like creature was spotted across the country. In England in 1993, a man saw Bigfoot full on for 20 seconds in the woods of Somerset. In Scotland in 1994, 3 men witnessed a hairy man that was a man but not a man on a mountainside. In England in 1998, at around 12:30 a.m, 4 witnesses saw Bigfoot in Cannock Chase Woods. Again in England in 2002, a man saw a large creature very close to where I am now sat in Sherwood Forest, with red, glowing eyes. In England in 2003, at 8:15 p.m, a man saw Bigfoot in the tree line. In Luxembourg in 2011, video of Bigfoot was captured walking through the snow. As we can see, sightings of the Wildman in Europe today are few and far between. In the US, Nepal, Russia, Australia, Indonesia and other places, the sightings are much more prolific. These places are less densely populated and still have an air of the frontier about them in many locations. I myself have been on a Bigfoot hunt in Kentucky and know that the woods and forests there are much more wild than anything in my part of the world. You could lose yourself very quickly in those dark woods. I've also travelled for 2 days through the forests of Australia, where the sky at night is not poisoned with the amber glow of the cityscapes. Looking upwards in those lonely places, you see many more stars twinkling than you do from anywhere in England. And so it may also be that in those wild lands you see many more wild men of the woods. We know that with our expansion, thousands of species are being wiped from the planet with every passing year. This is not a modern problem. It has been occurring for generations. Great Britain used to be home to the wolf and the bear. Both were hunted to extinction. The Wildman legend speaks of the wild hunt, of our ancestors seeking out the Wildman in order to eradicate him. Is this a legend, or is it truth? Did our ancestors push the Wildman to the point of extinction in Europe? Did he go underground and find solace in the dark caves and tunnels that run for thousands of miles across the continent? As species are destroyed, so too we discover new ones. Will we one day come face to face with the Wildman in the deep dark caves of Europe? And what will we choose to do? Will we again hunt him down and destroy him, or hope that we have learned our lesson and leave him well alone? The Wildman is by all accounts one with nature. He is master of the beasts. He lives peacefully in his small family group. There are no tales of mass warfare between this missing link we have feared for so long. There are no cases of genocide or creating terrible nuclear weapons. Are we truly more advanced than him? And when the time comes that a virus, comet, or even our very selves attempts to wipe out the human race, what of the Wildman? He has not become dependent upon the supermarket or mobile phone and satellite system. He has survived our onslaught on every continent, if we are to believe the thousands of sightings. He will emerge, and mankind itself will become the legend of a new civilization walking the earth.